Time to wrap up the week of politics now. Joining me is Labour MP Jacinda Ardern and National MP Jamie Lee. Ross, welcome to you both.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We must talk, I guess, first of all about this education policy U-turn fallout. There are all sorts of words and phrases floating around. Jamie Lee, budget fallout's one of those. Has the government done a poor job, firstly, of formulating this policy and secondly, of communicating it to the public?
Well, look, there was always going to be a transition from the old ratios to the new ratios, and that's still the case. But look, there has been some anxiety caused in the schooling community. We accept that, and what the Minister has said is that there's going to be a transition. We're going to have a working group which will be set up to work with the schools, and we've also announced that where there are schools that will be affected, they would be affected no more than 2 full-time teachers. But we must remember that 90% of the schools will have no change at all or could gain or lose only 1 teacher.
In fairness, transition and anxiety as words don't really cover it. There's been anger, outrage, fear, upset. There are protests happening right now in Wellington. People are talking about policy made on the hoof. Does the Minister need to admit that she got this wrong?
Well, last night I did see on the news the Minister did say sorry for the anxiety caused.
Yes, she did.
But we don't make any apologies for wanting to focus on better quality teaching. That's very important because in New Zealand, teacher numbers have gone up 5-fold greater than student numbers, but we've seen no discernible increase in student achievement. What we want is greater quality teaching. 4 out of 5 kids do very well in school and come out the other end with the qualifications they need. That's great, but we want to see 5 out of 5, and we believe focusing on greater quality teaching will help those kids achieve more.
Jacinda, let me bring you in here. Greater quality teaching, that is what we all want, isn't it?
Yeah, and I don't disagree with Jamie Lee's goal there of making sure that we do help those 20% of kids who are falling behind. But there's no evidence to suggest that larger class sizes are going to help those children. And that's why we've always argued that we shouldn't be making the trade-off between quality teaching and class sizes in the way that the government's done. You know, add to that the fact that the Minister put aside some funding for improving professional development for teachers. She's now having to raid that, we can assume, in order to bring in this contingency funding so that schools aren't losing more than 2 teachers over 3 years. So we haven't seen the breakdown yet of what really has happened as a result of this backtrack.
Is the government being responsive, though, listening to the people and saying, look, we hear what you're saying and it's only going to be 2 per school maximum?
If it was really listening, it wouldn't do it at all, Petra. I mean, at the moment, what we've really got the government saying is we're still going to chop your leg off, but right now we're just going to chop your foot.
Do you agree with Jamie Lee's statistics about the fact that there hasn't been an increase in quality, even though there's been a supposed increase in teachers?
But as we've continually said, you know, that lag, that 20% of kids that aren't being picked up, that we can't say that that's a direct correlation between the size of classes. In fact, we could see the situation get worse as a result of these changes. We don't disagree with professional development, but a good teacher in a big class is still going to struggle.
Jamie Lee.
Sure, and look, you can argue the class sizes thing, but the research shows that getting better quality teaching will help those kids more. When teacher numbers have gone up 12.5%, but student numbers have gone up 2%, but we've seen no improvement, you have to ask yourself, is the increasing number of teachers at the rate that it has been going up helping the kids as much as getting better quality would?
Jamie Lee, we've got to break this down. I mean, you're looking at it as these national figures across the board. We've got to think about individual classrooms, individual kids. And you may say that, you know, 90% of schools aren't going to be affected. Almost every school in my area where I've spoken to, they will be affected. And we've got to think about this at an individual level.
All right, we will hear more on this.
The most, Jacinda.
We will hear more on this, no doubt. Jamie Lee, Ross and Jacinda Ardern, thanks for joining Breakfast this morning.